on the poem from the first flight, and the first poem, 1A, that is Dust of Snow, written by Robert Frost. Robert Frost was an American poet, and he has to his name the Pulitzer Prize, and he has written various poems which were much acclaimed, like The Birches, then Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening, Mending Wall, Fire and Ice, etc. One of his most acclaimed was Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening, where we often quote from that poem for various things that we write, like the woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have miles to go before I sleep. I have miles to go before I sleep. This is a very well-known poem of Robert Frost. This poem, Dust of Snow, it's a very short poem, but very, very meaningful, and it has high symbolical value. The poet has taken many symbols into use to show an incident that took place, which brought about a great change in him. I will read the poem and explain it to you side by side. The way a crow shook down on me the dust of snow from a hemlock tree. He has given my heart a change of mood and saved some part of a day I had rued. Now, we begin. The first line tells us the way a crow shook down on the dust of snow from a hemlock tree. First of all, let's create the imagery. It has been snowing. There is a blanket of snow all over. Everything is covered. Just as dust particles cover any surface, similarly, snow had covered the entire area and it was still snowing. So as the poet notices that on a hemlock tree, there is a crow sitting, and the poet seems to be underneath. And what he notices is the crow sitting on the hemlock tree has also gathered some snowflakes on his feathers. So the crow immediately shakes himself and lets those snowflakes fall away. Those snowflakes which fell, they fell onto the poet who was standing underneath. Now here we come on to describe the poem, that the poet who had moved out of the house was not in the right frame of mind. Something was gripping at him, some thought, some worry, or some sadness and some despair that had gripped him. And he came out, and the ambience around added to it. Like maybe it was a cold day and he had to move out and he was depressed about something. So he was not in the right frame of mind. And I would explain this in a little, day-to-day life. Sometimes when you are worried about something, when you're bogged down with some kind of worry, you've had a fight maybe, or you've got a scolding, and your mood gets spoiled. The whole day, if you move out of the house in the morning after maybe a fight or a showdown or something like that, then the whole day seems to get ruined, because again and again, that thought keeps nagging at you, keeps worrying you. And you're so exasperated and irritated that you, snap at people around and you don't answer properly. You're not interested in the work that you want to do, and everything seems so difficult. So the same kind of thing had happened to the poet. Something was weighing on his mind, and he had sad thoughts in his mind and heart. So as he was standing under the tree, and when the crow shook itself, the poet immediately caught on. And he was really, receptive in the sense, quickly he understood that I should also do the same thing. Just as the crow, instead of getting wet with those snowflakes, simply shook himself and let the snowflakes fall off. So the poet also thought that I should also change my mood. I should also just let go and, not be bothered about what was bothering me, but I must bring about a change in my mood. I should bring about a change in my attitude and not ruin the entire day because of something maybe that, could not be rectified, or something that did not affect him in the present. Now here I explain, the way a crow shook down on me the dust of snow from a hemlock tree. The crow over here, as I told you, it's a highly symbolical poem. The crow here is taken as a symbol of ill omen. And ill omen, here we can link it to the poet, to the sad thoughts. And just as the crow had perched himself on the hemlock tree, the sad thoughts had also gripped the poet. Now, shook down on me, that is the action of the crow shaking. Now, here, symbolically, it means that the poet also had a change in his mood. He also changed his state of mind. The dust of snow, just as I told you, dust particles settle down. So the dust of snow, over here, the dust of snow is taken as a symbol of inertia. Now, all of you must be knowing the meaning of inertia, which simply we can say is inactivity. And I'm sure you must have done it in physics. Inertia is a state of matter, whether it's in a state of rest or in a state of uniform motion. It will continue to be like that unless some external force comes and stops it or changes it. So similarly, the poet was also gripped by this inertia, this inactivity. He was not feeling up to the mark. So when he saw that action of the crow, immediately he also had a change of thought and he changed his mood. The hemlock tree over here is also a symbol of the poet's sad mind. Now you'll say, how can a tree be connected to it? The hemlock tree is actually a poisonous tree. It's a tree which has white flowers and it's a poisonous tree. So any thought that worries you, that perturbs you, that, makes you lose your peace of mind is equivalent to poison. Just as poison can affect the body and kill, similarly, a sad thought or a perturbing thought, all the time nagging, can be almost killing. In Hindi, there is a phrase that we use, chinta jo hoti hai, chita ke saman hoti hai, that when you're worried about something, it gnaws at you, it eats inside, and it really does not leave you in a right frame of mind. So the shake from the hemlock tree has given my heart a change of mood. Given my heart a change of mood means a change of thought, a change in his frame of mind. That means a renewed life, a renewed life. And said some part of a day I had rued. Rued means regretted, because he had come out in that state of mind and his whole day would have got spoiled thinking about those thoughts. So when that action of the crow, gave him some wisdom and he decided to let go of that thought and change his opinion, change his negativity into positivity and move on and not spoil his day, which is very, very heartening to know that a small little action like this could actually promote the poet to have a change of heart, to have a change of mind, and to think positively. So, the poem is very short, but it's a little incident. It's a trivial incident. Trivial means small. Small incident, but bringing about a huge change. So, I move on to the question and answers of the poem. I hope you understood the text. It's about a small incident, the poet standing under a tree, there's snow all around, there's a crow sitting on a hemlock tree, and all these are symbols. The crow is a symbol of ill omen, the hemlock tree is a symbol of the poet's sad thoughts, and the dust of snow also being the negativity around. When we talk about relationships or something, we always say there's warmth in the relationship. So when there is coldness, that means there is no warmth. So it's considered to be a negative emotion. Okay. The first question is, what is dust of snow? What does the poet say has changed his mood? How has the poet's mood changed? So the dust of snow, as I told you, are the fine particles of snow that had settled like dust on the various objects, on the vegetation all around. There was a blanket of snow, and also on the crow that had perched itself on a hemlock tree. And then the crow shakes off the snow dust that had settled on him, and it falls onto the poet. The snow particles fall onto the poet. The little incident brings about a sudden change in the poet thought process and his mood, and now the poet shakes it off. Just as the crow shook off the snow particles from himself, the poet also shook off his sad thoughts, and he was filled with a renewed energy, new energy. Next question. How does Frost present nature in this poem? Now, Frost, he's not an idealistic in his approach, and like here he's taken all the negative aspects, but it's not like that. It's up to us how to take, whether we want to consider nature as a friend or an enemy. It's all up to us. Here the symbolical meaning that we have, the symbols that we have are all negative, but that does not mean that he was negative towards nature, or he thought that nature was to be considered as an enemy. Now, what are the birds that are usually named in poems? Do you think the crow is often mentioned in the poems? What images come to your mind when you think of a crow? Now here, generally when we, in many other poems, we see that poets use, songbirds or beautiful birds. Maybe a nightingale, a dove, as for peace we use it. Then maybe a peacock, and maybe robins and swans, as we talk about, as graceful as a swan. So these kind of birds are usually taken up. But here we see that a crow has been mentioned, which is not often mentioned in poems. Why? Because neither is it a beautiful bird, nor is it a good singer. It's not a songbird. And generally, the crow is associated as an ill omen. The superstitions that we have usually, like in our Hindu, this thing also, they believe that the crow is a sign of bad news, or the crow, when the crow caws on the rooftop, it's some bad news will come, or some believe that a visitor is going to be there today. Okay. What is a hemlock tree? Why doesn't the poet write about a more beautiful tree, such as a maple or an oak or a pine? Okay, these other beautiful trees. Here we see that hemlock over here has been used as is a poisonous tree, and has been used as a negative aspect. So the poet wants to create an atmosphere of sadness and stillness, So the hemlock tree being a poisonous tree, so he wants to create that kind of an atmosphere, a background to his poem. That is why he's taken it. As I told you, poison, connecting it to the poet, just as it's a poisonous tree and can be dangerous. Similarly, sad thoughts. And when you are not in the right frame of mind, when you are depressed, perturbed, then that also acts negatively on the body, and it can be considered as poison to the body. What do the crow and hemlock represent, joy or sorrow? What does the dust of snow that the crow shakes off a hemlock tree stand for? The crow and the hemlock tree stand for sorrow, and the dust of snow that has settled all around is used for inertia, as I told you, a state where you're inactive or inactivity. The crow shaking off the dust and snow from the tree stands for renewed life, changed life. Have there been times when you felt depressed or hopeless? Have you experienced a similar moment that changed your mood that day? Yes, it's very true. All of us have experienced this at some time or the other. Maybe it may be a very major issue, or it may be a very trivial issue, a petty issue. But yes, we do go across mood swings. But the best thing is to let go of that thought and to change your mind, because you can't ruin your day or you can't ruin your life because of these certain negative thoughts. It's human nature to think, negatively sometimes, and brood over it and, become a pessimist, but that's not the right attitude. So we must remember whatever has happened has happened. There's no point in brooding over the past. We don't know anything about the future. So what we have in hand is the present. So why ruin our present because of something that has happened in the past? Yes, about the past, we can say that we must learn from our past. We must learn from our mistakes and experiences and not repeat them again, because that would be foolishness then. So we must always have a positive state of mind and not let our thoughts come in our way when we are out to achieve something. Well, I hope you have understood the text and have benefited from the question and answers that were there in your text. I would like to do a few more with you. How does Frost say his mood has changed? Frost says that his mood has changed after he noticed or experienced the crow sitting on the hemlock tree, shaking off the particles of snow, and this gave the poet a sudden thought, and to shake off all that was worrying him, to let go of all that was worrying him, the sorrow, and to be filled with cheer once again. I would repeat the symbols used by Frost in this poem. The hemlock tree is a symbol of the poet's sad heart. The dust of snow is the sorrow that has settled on the poet's heart, like it settled all around. The crow is an ill omen, and the shaking of the crow is a symbol of renewed life, changed life. Well, I hope you have understood the text and have been able to reach across to you. Thank you very much.